It is so good to have you tuned in. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We come to you via the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and your local affiliate, or on the web, or on the EWTN app, or on Sirius XM Channel 130. Whatever method you use to listen, help us spread the word. Get other listeners to tune in, because this is a program, we call it peer-driven ministry. What you share on this program, in many ways, is way more important than Debbie and I could share about a given topic that we discuss. So please, get a hold of us today. Join the conversation at 1-800-585-9396. Debbie, here we are at the end of the week.
Oh, this is amazing. And our title of our show today is I Gotta Get Away. I've got to get away. Have you ever said that before? I know I have. I just said it a couple weeks ago, and I was so happy that we were on the pilgrimage to the Holy Land, Jerry, because it really was a time to recharge, to rejuvenate, to really just re-energize our faith, and to be on fire for the Lord, to learn more, to grow more. And that's what pilgrimages, retreats can do for your faith walk, for your faith life. So we want to hear from you. Like Jerry shared the number. I love when we share the number, because the phone lines just light up at 1-800-585-9396. We want to hear from you. Have you ever had to get away or need to get away? What can retreats and pilgrimages and days of reflection, what can they do for you? We want to hear what happens in your life. Help us grow, and let's do that together. 1-800-585-9396.
And as is so often the case, I know Debbie and I both have this happen. We will wake up during the night before a program, and just the topic comes to our minds and our hearts, and we're just thinking about different ways to encourage you to participate in the program and different ways that we can look at this. That's what Take Two is about. We want to take a new and fresh look at topics like this. And so today, some of the things that came to my heart during the night, Debbie, were these. I was thinking, we may have a job that we love, and we may love our families, and we may just, life is really, really good. The unfortunate thing that can sometimes happen is when we don't take that time to kind of unplug. And Jesus said, I think it was Mark 6:31 and many other places, to his disciples, "Come with me to a quiet place and rest a while." Well, why would he do that? That's an example for us. And if we don't do that, then resentment can come in. All I do is just take care of my family. All I do is go to work. All I do is, and then we can have a job that maybe we don't like, or we can grow to not like. Maybe a job we love, but so the spiritual ramifications, Debbie, of not taking this time out to unplug, I think are really important. So, dear listeners, we want to know from you, have you gotten to that point and maybe not managed to get away? How did that work out? Or maybe you finally just kind of say, the light bulb went on and you said, hey, you know what? I just have to get away for a couple days. It's that time. God is calling me to do that. How was that for you? How did you come back re-energized and recharged and ready to move forward in what God has called you to do? 1-800-585-9396 is the number to share your take.
And we're excited to really just make this conversation come alive. And in order to do that, I think we brought on the best person to help us with this. Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers is with us this morning, and I am so excited he is, because even when I hear his voice, I feel like I've had a mini retreat just being in his presence. So, Deacon Harold, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Well, thank you for having me back, Jerry. Debbie, it's great to be with you again.
Very good. I think Deacon Harold is, as Debbie said, a home run choice for this because, for a number of reasons. One, he is a husband and a father and busy in a ministry, so he personally has to take time to get away every now and then. As an ordained deacon in the Roman Catholic Church, and Deacon, you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe he has to make an annual canonical retreat. The church requires him to do that. But I think the most important thing is Deacon Harold is out among you, the people. He has dozens and dozens of speaking engagements already booked for this year and next year, and he is giving retreats, and he is leading parish missions and speaking at conferences and going on pilgrimages. So, Deacon, I'm very, very interested to hear what you're seeing is the impact for the people Rest of us who go to these events that you're doing. So, dear listeners, you could share your take or ask Deacon Harold a question at 1-800-585-9396. Remember, your takes drive this program.
And the phone lines are lighting up, so we're going to ask you to not hesitate if you want to talk to Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, which I know you will want to, because when you hear what great wisdom he imparts to all of us, you may have a question that's prompted by the Spirit that you can ask him right now. So don't hesitate. Dial in at 1-800-585-9396. Deacon Harold, we're going to take a break in just a few minutes, but I want to tail on what Jerry said. What are you seeing in the community? Are people taking that time to unplug and really making that special time to kind of grow their faith individually and re-energize themselves so they can go back into their vocations, in their family life, in their work life, in their ministries, and really feel on fire for the Lord? What are you seeing, Deacon Harold?
Well, the first thing I want to mention is how important this topic is. Because we live in a world where everybody is so busy, everybody is stressed. I mean, there's so many pressures, not just from the workplace and money, but even internal family struggles. Maybe someone is sick, someone's fallen away from the church, someone's struggling with addiction. There's so much we're dealing with. And we have to have time to decompress. We have to have time to get away and really step back outside of our situation and just reflect on the power and the meaning of the Lord in our lives. This was even important to Jesus himself. In Mark chapter 6, he says to the apostles, "Come away by yourselves to a lonely place and rest a while." For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure, not even to eat. See, they were so busy proclaiming the gospel that they didn't even have time to eat, but they still found the time to go away by themselves to a lonely place, to rest, to just be apart from the world, to just kind of step out and just reflect on truly what's really important in life. So that's an incredible lesson for us today. This is something that I don't think many people are taking advantage of because they feel the pressure of life every day. But I'm telling you, and myself, I traveled 187,000 miles last year. And by the time I was done in December last month, I was just ready for a break. I was truly ready for a break. And so I took several days where I did absolutely nothing. I didn't look at emails. I didn't do any homily prep. I didn't do anything. I just rested just with my kids and with my wife. It was awesome. And so now, refreshed and rejuvenated, ready to go back out there and do what the Lord has asked me to do. So this is a very important topic, and I hope that the people call in and share their experiences as well.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN. Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. You will find him at deaconharold.com. If you want, let me tell you, folks, if you want to put on a retreat or a conference or a mission in your parish and you want to see the entire community transformed, Deacon Harold's the guy, and I don't say this because he's with us. He's embarrassed. He doesn't like attention like this. But this is why his schedule is just blowing up, because he's got a passion that he imparts, and the words, the wisdom from his own personal experience. You will not regret having Deacon Harold come out to your parish or your conference. But Deacon, as we talk about this subject, let's look at some of the fruits a little more deeply of coming away like this. It can be just simply for the cause of rest. That's very important. Jesus did say that, as you quoted in Mark 6:31. Come away to a quiet place and rest a while. So rest is part of that, but also listening to the voice of God so that we have kind of that he can continue to further the vision he's given us as a husband, as a wife, as somebody in ministry for our jobs. So there are a lot of different reasons to do this, aren't there?
Yeah, and we often make excuses. The biggest one, Jerry and Debbie, is I don't have time. Because we think that everything else that we're doing is so important that we don't really take time for ourselves to see where we are and how God is speaking to us. Because in order to truly listen to God's voice, we have to do what it says in Psalm 46. Be still and know that I am God. And so we have to have time for quiet, for rest, for silence, to listen to God's voice and allow that voice to change our lives. So that's why this is so critical. With all the business and technology and everything else going on in the world, we can't hear God's voice because God doesn't speak to us with the ears on the sides of our heads, he speaks to us what St. Benedict in his rule called the aurum cordis, the ear of the heart. See, for the Israelites, the heart wasn't just the organ that pumped blood through the body. The heart was the seat of the will. The heart was the place where your desire lives inside of you. That's what God is trying to touch. That's the message that the gospel is trying to reach. It's trying to reach your heart. And in order to hear and effectively take in what God is saying to us, we have to be still and silent and quiet. And quite frankly, one of the ways we can do that on a regular basis is Eucharistic adoration. I think that's one of the ways that we can step back and be silent, and it doesn't cost anything except that hour to be with the Lord, to really be refreshed and really listen to God's voice. I think that's extremely important for our culture today. I think Eucharistic adoration could change the world, quite frankly. If everybody did adoration, we'd see an incredible change in the world. But it's all part of this stepping back and resting and focusing on God's voice in our lives.
Well, and with technology, Deacon Harold, you can have the adoration app right on our phones, which is something that is some people can do and take adoration everywhere they go, which is interesting how we've weaved in technology into our prayer life. But I'd also want to go back to how Jesus has described the Sabbath for us, and how we are to utilize the Sabbath for really to take root with our faith. And so think about that for Deacon Harold for just a moment, because like we said, we're going to go to a break. The phone lines are filling up. And when we come back, maybe you could talk a little bit about how we should honor the Sabbath, how we should do that. And is technology a way to bring into our faith life? Or maybe we should go back to really celebrating the Lord's Day the proper way. So let's talk about that when we come back after this break on Take Two. We're talking about pilgrimages, retreats, days of reflection, ways to re-energize ourselves in the faith. So stay with us on Take Two. Make the time for this, will you? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I invite people to listen to Women of Grace Live if they're interested in being informed, if they're interested in being inspired, if they're interested in being encouraged in their life of faith. I encourage people to listen to Women of Grace Live because we hear from a wide assortment of people whose questions oftentimes are the very questions that are going on. I'm Janet Benkovic, inviting you to join me weekday mornings at 11 Eastern for Women of Grace on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
EWTN is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If your cable or satellite provider doesn't carry EWTN's full programming lineup, give them a call and let them know you would like to receive EWTN 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
For more information, go to EWTN.com and click on Television.
We're so glad you joined us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. And by the way, dear listeners, thank you so much. Yesterday, we asked for you to like the EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook page, and we needed only 25 likes to get over 4,000, and you actually came in with 175 likes. So you must have invited tons of your friends. Thank you so very much. Now we're on our way to 5,000, so keep asking your friends. And you know what, Deacon Harold, today's guest is Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and we know that the phone lines are just going to fill up and stay full throughout the whole hour because Deacon Harold has a huge following and people love to ask him questions. But Deacon Harold, this goes to what we were just saying. It's very interesting because don't you think it would be cool for people to maybe pray about maybe 3 people that could really use EWTN in their life, and then invite them to like Facebook so that they can get the posts every single day of what's happening in Catholic media. So that might be a great way to evangelize. I mean, just thought I'd throw that out there. But 1-800-585-9396 is the number. Before the break, we were talking about, Deacon Harold, how do we really honor the Sabbath, the Lord's Day? How would you say is the best way we can do that?
Well, in the book of Genesis, it talks about that God created the world in 6 days. On the seventh day that he rested. And then again in the Decalogue and the Ten Commandments in the book of Exodus, and also repeated in the book of Deuteronomy, it talks about this third commandment, honoring the Sabbath day, where the seventh day is a solemn rest, a solemn day of rest that's holy to the Lord. So it's a day of consecration and rest in the Lord, and that's just a beautiful combination. God, we participate deeply and intimately in the life of God every day of our lives, but on Sunday, on the day we celebrate the Lord's conquering death and resurrection, and in participating in his love and his life intimately in receiving our Lord Jesus Christ in word and in sacrament. And we're fed and nourished by the Lord. And then we leave ready to evangelize. But that day of rest, that's just a day to be with, that's consecrated holy to the Lord, a day just to reflect on the meaning and purpose of our lives, spend time with family, just to rest from all the work that's being done during that week. It's really just a time just to again, just one day a week. Maybe you can't always go on a pilgrimage. Maybe you can't make it to a national shrine or sanctuary, something like that, to really get away. But Sunday, every Sunday, is this day of a day of remembering this beautiful, irrevocable covenant that the Lord has given to us, that we have been holy and set apart for the honor and the praise and the glory of God. And having a day just to reflect on that, I think, is a wonderful gift that God has given to us, and we should take full advantage of. Even some companies, are closed on Sundays to give their employees, a day off rest. But I think it was a beautiful thing. We need to see more of that in our own lives.
This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're so glad you're with us. And our Friday guest is Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. I know, Deacon, you're going to be hitting the road here later today for one of your speaking engagements, so we'll ask our listeners to pray for you. Our phone number, dear friends, is 1-800-585-9396. How do you keep holy the Lord's Day on Sunday? I mean, do you really totally unplug? I know somebody who, actually, I don't know if he locks his cell phone up, but he puts it away, doesn't even touch his cell phone on Sundays. So, I mean, we can. There's a whole spectrum of ways that we could approach that, but we're talking even more broadly than that. Have you found yourself getting weary, just weary life, and you don't know quite? Well, I think the church has the answer in, getting away to maybe even just for a day, just for a half a day, or as Deacon Harold said, for an hour. Go to your Eucharistic chapel and just quiet yourself before the Lord. Have you done that? Have you done it? How has it changed your life? How does it refuel you on a regular basis? When was the last time you went on a retreat or a pilgrimage or a parish mission, something of this nature, and really just really got quiet before the Lord and poured your heart out to him and listened to what he had to say to you? 1-800-585-9396. We're going to go to your calls. Oscar is in Oregon listening on Sirius XM 130. Oscar, that's the state where Deacon Harold is as well. Oscar, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I
Very good.
What wanted to share a little of my own correlation with the shepherds. When the smallest of the brothers, David, was out, and when the prophet was out, answering God's call, looking for the king, and he was not around. He was out in the field, and he was out in the elements, where God, he could feel or hear the urgings of God, and I really believe that when we do take a time out and not run from silence, where instead of jumping in the car, turning the radio on, or if we can honestly look at our whole personhood, where we're just not flesh and bones, but we have a soul, and that's what is made, I believe, in the image and likeness of God. And when we're able to really try to uncover, like, I kind of look at it like I'm a miner, and I'm looking for gold, and there's pockets that I'm digging and digging and digging, and I come upon. And I think that only in silence can we uncover those treasures that are only found through Christ. And I really believe that God, man cannot know God just with reason alone, that God had to reveal himself, and he revealed himself in the person of Jesus Christ, and it's in Jesus that we find those treasures.
Well, Oscar, I'm going to jump in and give Deacon Harold a chance to reply, because I think this is no surprise. Our listeners are always, you guys are home run hitters. We just had the Baseball Hall of Fame election the other day, and I just want to say, Deacon Harold, our listeners are home run hitters. I think what his point is, Deacon, that David was really more attentive to the things that God called him to do and listening to the voice of God rather than maybe involved in the hustle and bustle of the day. And it was David whom God was picking out at that time, Deacon.
Well, yeah, in 1 Samuel, and Oscar, well, to say your comments are absolutely wonderful. I think you're exactly right. So I want to say two things in response to Oscar. First of all, in that 1 Samuel, Samuel comes to anoint the new king of Israel because God is displeased with Saul. And so Jesse, because he goes to Bethlehem, to the house of Jesse, the Bethlehemite, and Jesse lines up 7 of his sons, Abinadab and the others, and to Samuel, these guys look like kings. They're strong, they're handsome, they're tall. And he goes to pour the oil, and the Lord says, no, none of these guys. Because he says, God does not see as man sees. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And so he said, do you have any more sons? Well, there's David out there. He's a shepherd out there with the sheep. Bring him. And he walks in, and the Lord says, anoint him. See, so God looks inside. That's why what Oscar says is so important. We can't be afraid of silence. And we seem to be a culture, even in the church. I mean, think about it. I go to Mass, so obviously, every week. I travel so much. But, you have the first reading. Then right after the first reading, there should be a little time for silence after the readings. We just heard God speaking to us. We just heard the Word of God broken open and fed to us. We should take at least, 4 seconds, 5 seconds to allow that word to absorb. But as soon as the reading is over, the word of the Lord, thanks be to God, whoop, the music starts for the responsorial song. Then after that's over, the second reading, whoop, the gospel. I mean, whoa. Let's take some time just to be quiet. And every second of Mass doesn't have to be filled with music. I mean, after communion, a little bit of silence, because for many people, that's their adoration time. That's the time we have God, body and blood, soul, divinity, just uniting himself to us in the Eucharist. Let's just take a couple of minutes just to be quiet. But we seem to be afraid of silence, and we shouldn't. We should embrace it. That's why I love what Oscar said. I think he's right on the money.
Yeah, but Deacon Harold,
well,
I just want to, can I jump in real quick
Go ahead.
before Oscar?
Go ahead, Deb, sure.
Real fast. Deacon Harold, you said something so important, and I know in religious education, I've had a lot of people, when you said you're afraid of the silence, a lot of people not only are afraid of the silence is very unsettling to a lot of people because they're not sure how they're being received by God. And it's really interesting when you said that. Because I wanted just to comment on that, about that silence again. Maybe we can revisit that after the break. And Oscar, your points were so well taken. I mean, I think it has inspired all of us to really look deeper into this. So thank you, Oscar, for calling in, making the time, and being the first one up on Take Two. You really set the tone for this conversation, and it was perfect. Okay, you dear listeners, you hear that music. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Deacon Harold's going to answer some more questions, and we're going to talk more about being really silent with God. Stay with us.
Whether you're at home, at work, in the car, you can follow what he teaches 24 hours each day. We're EWTN Radio.
And just to let you know, I'm a returning Catholic because of EWTN. Bless you guys and keep it up.
And you're invited to visit our website too. Just log on to www.ewtn.com. That's www.ewtn.com.
From the archives, this is the wisdom of Mother Angelica.
I want to be like Jesus. That should be in the heart of every Catholic, every Christian. I want to be like Jesus. Well, if you don't know what's not like Jesus in you, how are you going to be like Jesus? I mean, if you're the perfect one, then you got it made, but you don't. But I need light. You need light. You need light to know what's wrong with you. So let's not be afraid of Jesus. Let's not be afraid to know ourselves. If you gossip a lot, if you've committed some pretty bad sins, if you're angry, saucy, always complaining, always griping, then you need to say, I am always griping. I need to change.
For more about Mother Angelica, visit EWTNRC.com.
For the guys out there striving to live out your Catholic faith, there's a new magazine just for you. Next time, Rose Ray talks about the premier issue of Valiant and the new ways it covers traditional Catholic topics.
Plus, we'll answer your calls, emails, and tweets.
Next time on At Home with Jim and Joy on EWTN.
At Home with Jim and Joy is seen around the world on EWTN television. For dates and times in your area, go to EWTN.com.
So good to have you with us here. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. We are just always happy to welcome our good friend and colleague in ministry, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, to the program. You will find him at deaconharold.com, deaconharold.com. Deacon, before we go to our next call, Mary in Houston, Mary, we'll get right to you in a second. What is it? What are people, people who are looking for, what you offer at a conference, a parish mission, a day of recollection, and so forth? What is it that you provide? You can speak on a number of topics, I know, but share briefly with our listeners just your love of going out and helping to recharge people in their faith.
Well, Jerry, the decision to leave a very well-paying job, six-figure salary job, to walk away from that and to preach and to speak full-time was it was something I knew the Lord was calling me to. And what led me to that decision a little over 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now, was Eucharistic adoration, was that time for being still, for being silent, for getting away, and just reflecting. Because ultimately, I said to myself, "What does God want?" It's just like Jesus at the garden. Jesus said, "Okay, take this cup away from me. If you got a different plan, now is the time." But he adds, "Not as I will have it, Lord, but Father, but as you." I'm not coming to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. And that's all I wanted. I wanted what Jesus wanted. I wanted to do the will of the Father. And the way I discerned that was the silence and the quiet of the getting away in Eucharistic adoration. And I still go to adoration every week, but I doubled my adoration time during that year of discernment. Because it took a year until, I was comfortable. Well, not comfortable. I was scared, but the love of my wife really gave me the strength to be able to leave that job and say, okay, God, I trust you. And it's just been amazing ever since. In fact, the most amazing thing about it was not about how much I travel or being invited to speak at the Vatican, which I got invited to speak in May at one of the Jubilee Year of Mercy events, or anything else that I'm doing, or the book, which has been a bestseller for Ignatius Press. It's the closest I felt to my wife and to my children. And that was something I didn't plan for. But that's the power of being with the Lord in that silence, in that quiet. When you listen to and you respond, God says, "Trust me, and I've got it. Don't worry, I've got you. You're trusting me now. Just go and do what I've called you to do, and I've got the rest of it." And when I've done that, just opened all kinds of incredible doors in my life and the life of my family. So living testimony to the beauty of getting away.
Well, yeah. And Deacon Harold, you were also invited to be one of the headliners of the One Faith Experience at Chaffetz Arena on April 23rd of this year in St. Louis. That's the One Faith Experience, and it's going to be amazing, and you're going to be part of it. And I just can't wait to see the look on the hopefully 8,000 attendees that will be present that day. I can't wait to see the look when they walk out of there after a full day of being re-energized in their faith, and having you and all the other speakers and Matt Maher and everything else we have planned for this great experience. What a great way to be in 2016 on fire for the faith. I mean, it's perfect. And I'm so excited. I can't wait till April 23rd. And dear listeners, if you want to get tickets, I would hurry up. Don't hesitate. Go to onefaithexperience.com. You can get your tickets for the full day there. Don't forget that, because Deacon Harold is one of the keynote speakers, and I'm so excited about that. Okay, Deacon Harold, let me ask you, are you excited about it?
Oh, absolutely. This is, in my opinion, going to be the premier Catholic event in the United States next year. Everybody truly needs to make an effort to get there. I mean, because if you can't go on a true pilgrimage, maybe to the Holy Land or to Rome for this year of mercy, then I would attend the One Faith Experience, because it's going to be an experience that will impact you deeply and change your life. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Well said. I was going to say, I'm so excited. I'm actually Googling typing in the One Faith Experience, Deacon Harold, because I was just looking at the stadium and seeing that tickets are being gobbled up on the floor area as you were talking. So I was just getting excited. I couldn't talk and type at the same time, but that's okay. It's all good. We're going to go to Mary next, who's been waiting patiently. Mary, thank you so much. You're in the Houston area of Texas, listening on Sirius XM 130. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and our guest, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers.
Thank you very much. I have a kind of an experience with adoration that when I was a youngster in high school, I would go to adoration on a Saturday afternoon. And sometimes I would read a life of the saint. Sometimes I would I read a whole bunch about the Blessed Mother's apparitions and things like that, and then I would pray in my own way. And it is to that experience that I attribute the fact that I am the only one of my siblings that is a practicing Catholic. Everyone else has fallen away. And I still have adoration. I have an hour every week. But I know it is a temptation. I just have trouble overcoming it. And here's the temptation. I want to be there, but when I get there, I want to do anything but pray or listen to the Lord. I want to read, I want to write, I want to be busy. And I'm sure it's just a temptation, but I have not been able to get past it.
Yeah. Because we're so filled with distractions. I think the first thing, Mary, is the fact that you're going. Even despite all the business, you're finding the time to go. And you're right. That's happened to me sometimes as well, too, that you get the adoration and you're so overwhelmed with everything going on that's what you bring to adoration. Sometimes I go there and it's like, okay, Jesus, I ain't got nothing today. What you got? I'm on empty. I got nothing. What do you have today, And you're right. It's sometimes hard to appreciate that silence, but what I do is I just, sometimes I'll just sit there and I'll just start worrying about things before Jesus, and it's just because I'm going to worry anyway, but I just do it in front of Jesus and just in my mind, just going through, okay, this and this and this, and it's interesting. And just be quiet, just going through things in my mind. All of a sudden there'll be a calm and there'll be a peace, and the Lord will say to me, hey, don't worry, or trust me, or this is not really as big of a deal as you think it is, or he'll give me an answer, or lead me in a direction. It's just spending that time in front of him, I think, is wonderful. Just be patient. Don't worry about reading or writing, or sometimes I'll pray the rosary, I'll do the liturgy of the hours, I'll even write homilies, prepare my homilies in front of the Blessed Sacrament. But I always spend at least half of the time just being quiet and just listening. It's not worried about, I have to do something, I have to pray, I have to know. You're there to listen, So just being there, just being in the presence of the Lord, I think the Lord will honor the fact that you are there, and then begin to slowly speak to your heart and lead you to deeper intimacy with Him.
Does that help, Mary?
Yes, it does. One day I planned my funeral while I was there.
Well,
why not? You know?
See, there you go.
I read a lot of scripture. That day, and I'd rather have this one. And there was a book I got from our pastor that he gives people who have lost someone and they're planning a funeral. And I said one day to him, "Could I have a copy of that? I'd like to work through that."
See, there you go. Well, that's beautiful.
And Mary, may it not be anytime soon, but it is going to happen for all of us. I mean, my mother actually, bless her heart, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of her death this month, a little later this month, and she was, I have never known anyone who was more ready in terms of just the paperwork and, the burial site and just making sure this was paid for and that everything. She didn't want any burdens or inconveniences on the 5 kids, so she had all of that in order before she, many years before she died, by the way. So Mary, may God continue to bless you and use you to bless others for many more years. So thank you so much, Mary, for calling. And before we go to a break and then Christina, I just wanted to mention there was a priest, Debbie and Deacon Harold, that I knew one time, not well, but I remember someone asked him, he would be seen early in the morning, about 6:30 a.m., sitting in front of the tabernacle. And somebody asked him, what do you say? What goes on during that time? And he says, I just look at him and he just looks back at me. And I thought, wow, when it gets right down to it, that's really, that's enough just to be there and to gaze upon the Lord and know that He is gazing back upon us.
Well, and I can relate to what Mary was saying. I mean, I totally can. And we kind of talked about this before the break, Jerry and Deacon Harold, about how, I know we got to go to another break, but how can we really work with this idea of being just in silence and what to do or not to do? And I like what you said, Jerry, about the priest said just looking back at you. But how do we reconcile maybe the uncomfortableness of the silence, Deacon Harold? Maybe can you impart some ideas for all of us? Because I know Mary's not alone. I've felt it as well. I've sometimes picked up books and just started reading stuff that I normally would have never read in adoration just because I thought I had to be doing something. So maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, see, and that's part of the busyness that we have going on in our life. And, I like to draw from what St. John Paul II said. When he talked about active participation, because that was something that came out in the Second Vatican Council, active participation in the Mass. And the Holy Father clarified that when they use the word they use, actuosa in Latin, doesn't mean active like doing something. It's a deeper, richer participation. And in fact, he said one of the deepest forms of active participation is silence. It's silence. But the thing is, we're so filled with the culture with noise and distractions and iPhones and gadgets and satellite phones and radios and all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying any of that stuff is bad at all, not in the least. But the thing is, we're so wrapped up and so filled with noise and distractions that silence has become uncomfortable, which is exactly what the devil wants. He doesn't want us in adoration. He doesn't want us at Mass. He doesn't want us praying the rosary. He wants us in hell with Him. That's what he wants. So he wants to make silence uncomfortable for us. And that's why I go back to the Psalms, be still and know that I am God. Or Psalm 119, at midnight, I will rise and thank you for your just decrees. We have to start embracing and becoming comfortable with silence again. On college campuses, for the Newman chapels, the fastest growing devotion is Eucharistic adoration. So even young people now, these millennials that are immersed in the culture and technology, are rediscovering the absolute beauty of silence before the Lord. So just, you don't have to do anything. We always feel I have to do something. No, just like the priest, just go there, just sit there, and just be before God. And you'll start notice, I'm not really getting anything out of this. But once you start to really open yourself and just sit there and just let God speak to you in your heart, then you'll start noticing the Lord opening all kinds of doors to deeper union with Him and with your family and friends in the entire church.
Well, I know Jerry's
Take
going to
two
go to
with Jerry
Christina. Debbie.
Yeah, I was just going to give the phone number out, 1-800-585-9396. Take two with Jerry and Debbie and our guest, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. We're talking about today, I got to get away. And as Deacon Harold has pointed out so beautifully, that getaway could be an hour, just to slip away, take a lunch one day a week from your job, and rather than eating or eat at your desk, after you spend an hour of adoration? Or have you gone on a pilgrimage or made a retreat or attended a parish mission? What did that do for you? How did that kind of transform your thinking when it comes to sitting, quieting yourself, resting before the Lord? 1-800-585-9396. Sorry about that, Debbie, but...
No, sorry. I'm sorry back at you.
We're going to go to Christina in Pennsylvania, listening on the iHeart Radio app. Christina, you're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. How are you, Christina?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
I would say we're all pretty well, thanks be to God.
Amen. Yeah, I wanted to share. I have my husband and I have 5 children, and our 3 oldest are on the autism spectrum. They have an array of sensory problems, so day-to-day life can be very taxing and difficult. And my husband is also an Iraq War vet. So when he came home and we did some therapy together, one of the things that the therapist had encouraged us to commit to was taking that time each month, one day to ourselves. Also, a day as a couple, some time, but I started, it was very hard for me to do that because of my children and their needs, and I guess I maybe had a little bit of trouble with controlling things and making sure everybody was okay because I'm a full-time mom. And that silence at first was very difficult. But I didn't know what to do with myself, and that's when I found myself at the Adoration Chapel. And it took time, but now, and I've found each month, if I take my day and I don't spend any time in adoration, even for a few minutes, I don't feel as though I've gotten that refreshment, which is so important to me to take care of my family. But yeah, I wanted to say, how good it has been for me and my family, because I really felt, many times, and maybe other people too, like Job, and I felt like, God, you're allowing, me to be tested, and I'm being faithful, but it's hard and it hurts, and it was so difficult, and so many times there's tears. But now I feel like I'm on the other side, and I feel like I've gotten, more of those rewards. And so, yes, there's still difficult days, but I have been given so many wondrous gifts. And I keep, like I said, taking that time before God. And really, I just, one of the things that happened to me in the silence was that my heart really cries out to Jesus when I'm there with him, and I just imagine myself, going up and throwing myself at his feet and just kissing his feet because, of the hurt and the sorrow, but also the love and the blessings and the gifts that he's given me, and it's just been wonderful. And I also wanted to ask, because, like I said, I take a day and my husband takes a day, and so that's how, I choose to spend my time. But my husband, would much rather do other things like play video games or whatever, and that's, his choice. But I wish that I could help him to get what I've got. And I don't know how to be that quiet support and not control him or make him do something, and how to get him to come to this.
Well, Deacon Harold, what do you think?
Well, first of all, Christine, I want to thank you for sharing such a beautiful testimony. And I think that's, if Mary's still listening, that's something that she can take solace in, is that, once you just, because I'll go, and I was like, there's got to be at least a dozen emails I need to return, or this important thing I need to do, or this talk I need to prepare. Just to put that to the side for an hour, and just to spend that time with the Lord, definitely brings rewards, as you just so beautifully said. Now, as far as your husband, you're not alone. I hear this from wives quite often. Where the husband's not utilizing the time maybe as he should to be the priest in the home, to be the one that's leading and offering the sacrifice, as the scriptures tell, especially in Ephesians chapter 5. So, one of the things I'd recommend, actually, to be honest with you, I'm not trying to make a plug here, but to get him a copy of my book, Behold the Man. I've received emails from a number of women who've given that to their husbands, and they said it's been transformative for their husbands. So, and as I wrote the book with your husband in mind, for the kind of guy that this book is for, and if he's a reader, I think he'll find it helpful and engaging, and I think he will start to see a significant change in his attitude once he really begins to understand what his role is, and to accept that, and to really utilize that time to be more of the man that Christ created and calls him to be. So, yeah, that your support, your love, your encouragement, allowing him to serve you, allowing him to lead, but also, nudging him and encouraging him a little bit. Hey, can you? I'd love for you to come to me with adoration, or maybe just try it for half an hour, and just encourage him gently, and get him a copy of the book, and have him even read that during his time. If he can't settle his mind, read that or something else during adoration, and I think that will start to make a difference in both of your lives.
Does that help?
Yes.
All right. Christina, we're going to pray for you, and I think your situation, while it sounds like many, many good things are going on, could use a little bit of a tweak here and there, and that is representative of every one of us. I know that I myself, I'll point to the first finger at myself when it comes to being guilty of not spending that quiet time or getting away and really letting the Lord speak to my heart and do whatever He wants in my life. So, Christina, thank you so very, very much. We are going to get to Michelle in just a minute, but for the benefit of all of our listeners, an analogy that just came to mind, Deacon, I know you've thought of this, you probably present this in your talks, and Debbie, you know it well too. But Deacon, you said earlier you travel a lot. So when you're on the airplane and the flight attendants are going through that spiel before you take off, and they talk about those oxygen masks that drop down, could drop down, from above us. What is it that they tell us to do?
Put on your mask first before assisting someone else.
Bingo, exactly. And so this, I think, addresses how a lot of people might feel guilty, like, well, I can't take this time away because I need to be there for, Christina, I think, said for her kids. Well, Christina, you are going to be there so much more beautifully for your kids as you take this time away, because God needs to fill you up so that you can give what He gives you to them. And this is the case for every one of us. I think it's just such a beautiful analogy. Why? If you're sitting there with your child, what is the first thing you want? You want an oxygen mask on your child because, you want to save his or her life if something goes wrong. But the airlines and common sense say, no, put yours on first so that then you're going to be of maximum use to those around you. So I think it fits. But we got about 2 minutes to get to Michelle in Long Island listening on Sirius XM 130. Michelle, you're on with Deacon Harold, Burke-Sivers. How are you? Hello, Michelle.
Michelle.
Maybe we don't. Michelle, once, twice, as Patrick Coffin would say, once, twice. Okay, sorry, Michelle. I guess we don't have Michelle there, or she's not quite ready. But we can close this out. We got about 2 minutes anyway, Deb.
And can I just ask something? Because the two last comments are coming in, or the two callers, Michelle and Nina. Talking again about adoration. And Deacon Harold, I went back to the adoration app that's on our phones. Going back to Christina's call, would a guy that's used to technology, would that work? How does the Adoration app, does it prove to be effective? I mean, I know it doesn't replace going to an actual adoration, perpetual adoration chapel, but does the Adoration app seem to be beneficial?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, because it's funny when I talk to young people and the adoration. I mean, I have to be there for an hour and not text. They can't imagine not being tied to their technology for an hour. But technology could be a good thing, and this is one of the cases where it could be a good thing. Now, I don't necessarily use it myself. I'm kind of a traditional guy when it comes to adoration. I just go there and be before the Lord. But the app could help people. So definitely take advantage of it if it'll bring you closer to God, if it'll bring you the results that God wants in your life, and absolutely, definitely utilize it. I like I said, I mostly just either be quiet or just pray the Rosary or the Chaplet of Divine Mercy or the Liturgy of the Hours, something like that. But yeah, I think the app could be extremely helpful for someone just looking for a place to start. Okay, how do I get going here? How do I get things going until I feel comfortable? I think the app is a good way to introduce them to that.
Right, just to get a start to it. That's exactly what I was hoping that you would say. Maybe that's just what somebody needs, and they start to experience just that intimacy through technology, and then they'll be drawn to wanting to go to sit in a chapel and really have that face-to-face encounter. So that, great. I think that's awesome, and we should encourage that. Jerry?
Well, and Debbie, speaking of experiences, as we're down to our final minute here, Deacon Harold, we just want to thank you for being on the program today, and just to remind our listeners once again that Debbie and I, we will be your hosts for the entire day at the One Faith Experience and One Faith Extreme. All right, this is a conference and a concert, but we're calling them an experience and an extreme because we want to supercharge your faith during the day. 6 speakers. We got Deacon Harold. We have Tim Staples from Catholic Answers, Father Larry Richards on EWTN, Sonia Corbett, Adam Bly, Hector Molina, 6 speakers throughout the day. It's going to be an amazing event. April 23rd at the Chaffetz Arena, campus of St. Louis University. For our event, it holds 8,000. We need you in one of those seats, okay? And then that evening, the Extreme, the One Faith Extreme, the Thirsting out of Deacon Harold's area, Portland, Vancouver, Washington, and Matt Maher, he is a 2-time Dove Award winner and Grammy nominee. The concert that night. Let all the people you know about this information and details, tickets, travel packages, group advantage, save money if you bring a group at onefaithexperience.com. Get there today and get your tickets.
So don't hesitate. Get your tickets, onefaithexperience.com. Thank you, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. Safe travels. And to all of our dear listeners, have a beautiful and blessed weekend. See you on Monday.